Welcome to Heartbreak Chronicles.
Jasper stood frozen at the bedroom door, staring at the flickering phone screen on the nightstand. Celeste's backup phone was lit up, displaying a message that had just arrived. "Don't forget to bring the lube and Viagra tonight. I'm sick of your husband's pathetic performance. Room 1807 waiting for you. Don't be late." His world collapsed in that instant. Celeste had left just 10 minutes ago, her suitcase packed with cosmetics she had just retrieved from the bathroom. Instinctively, he walked to the bathroom and opened the cabinet. In the very corner, he found 2 identical bottles of lubricant and a box of Viagra, backup supplies. He picked up the 2 small bottles, examining them carefully in his palm, as a cold calm replaced his initial shock. He didn't smash them, didn't scream, and didn't call Celeste to confront her. He only smiled slightly, revealing a chilling grin. "Boss special? Fine then, I'll prepare some real special effects medicine for you both." Jasper was a senior pharmacist at Westside Pharmaceutical Company, responsible for new drug development and quality control. 15 years of professional experience had given him intimate knowledge of drug components and chemical reactions. This job had given him patience, precision, and problem-solving abilities. And now, the problem he needed to solve was the unspeakable relationship between his wife Celeste of 7 years and her so-called mentor, pharmaceutical company CEO Thaddeus. He should have seen it coming. Celeste had been vain since college, but Jasper thought she had accepted their ordinary but comfortable life. Clearly, he was wrong. Over the past 6 months, all the clues had been staring him in the face. Celeste's sudden coldness toward their sex life, those mysterious overtime hours, frequent business training, and her new habit of showering immediately after coming home. But what made Jasper most alert was that Celeste had started mocking his career with cold sarcasm. "You're 35 years old and still just a pharmacist? Thaddeus is 20 years older than you and he's already a CEO." Celeste often said this, her eyes filled with naked disgust. Looking back now, the successful man in her eyes was probably someone like Thaddeus, a 60-year-old CEO who needed Viagra to maintain his prowess. How fucking ridiculous. Jasper took a beer from the refrigerator and sat at the kitchen bar, calmly analyzing the situation. Tomorrow was the day Celeste and Thaddeus were going to Orlando to explore new markets. A 3-day trip. He knew this was his only chance. He didn't need hysterical questioning, painful confrontations, or pathetic attempts to win her back. There was no need for that. What he needed was perfect revenge, a precise strike that would make the betrayers remember for life. The plan was already forming in his mind. Jasper pulled out his phone, searched for several chemical compounds, and then smiled. This would be the most satisfying formula of his professional career. The next morning, when Celeste dragged her suitcase out, Jasper saw her to the door as usual, even proactively helping her put the luggage in the trunk. "Drive safely. Text me often," Jasper said with a smile, his voice carrying a chill that even he hadn't noticed. "I will. It's going to be busy this time. Don't worry if I don't reply to messages." Celeste seemed somewhat absent-minded. Clearly her thoughts had already flown elsewhere, or rather to someone else. "Go ahead. Enjoy your business inspection properly." Jasper stood at the door, watching his wife's car disappear around the corner, the smile on his face gradually fading. Jasper returned home and went straight to his study, taking out a small toolbox from the drawer. This box contained tools he often used in the pharmaceutical laboratory: precision scales, measuring cylinders, mortars, several small glass bottles, and various powders and liquids. It was time to begin his special project. "Let's start with the simplest," Jasper muttered to himself, picking up the Viagra bottle. He took edible starch and blue food coloring from his medicine box, carefully weighed them, and mixed them together. He used the mortar to grind the mixture into fine powder, then used a professional pill press to compress it into tablets of exactly the same shape and color as Viagra. As an experienced pharmacist, this operation was child's play for him. "Look at your superpower pills, Thaddeus," Jasper sneered, putting the fake pills into the original bottle. "Just starch and coloring. You could eat 100 and still not get hard." But the real masterpiece was yet to come. Jasper took out that bottle of so-called repair moisturizing essence, actually just ordinary lubricant. He carefully poured out the liquid from the bottle and replaced it with his own specially made magic formula. Formula design time. Jasper put on rubber gloves and took out several small bottles. The base of this formula was a special bright green dye, usually used for cell staining in medical research. This dye had extremely strong penetrating power, and once it contacted skin, it would take at least 2 weeks to completely fade. Best of all, it would become more pronounced when it contacted sweat. First layer of punishment. Social death. Jasper nodded with satisfaction. Then, he added an appropriate amount of concentrated capsaicin liquid, enough to cause intense burning sensation, but not enough to cause permanent damage. This capsaicin content was 3 times that of the hottest Mexican peppers, and contact with mucous membranes would produce unbearable burning. Second layer of punishment. Excruciating pain. Jasper took out 2 small bottles, one containing a powerful diuretic, the other containing highly effective laxative ingredients. Both substances could be absorbed through the skin, but needed time to take effect. He precisely calculated the dosage, ensuring the effects would begin to manifest about 30 minutes after use and last for several hours. Third layer of punishment. Loss of control. Jasper's eyes sparkled with vindictive pleasure. Finally, he added a medical-grade topical vasodilator, usually used for migraine patients, which would cause surface blood vessels to dilate, producing obvious heating and skin flushing, while enhancing the absorption of other ingredients. Final blow. Accelerated absorption. Jasper carefully mixed all the ingredients together, adjusting the viscosity to make it completely identical to the original lubricant. He even added a little peppermint essential oil to mask the smell of other ingredients and provide initial cooling sensation. This way users would feel very comfortable at first, and when the capsaicin began to take effect, the contrast would be even more pronounced. Hope you both enjoy this business trip. Jasper put the 2 small bottles back in Celeste's cosmetic bag, precisely in the position where he had found them. Then he took a photo of the bottles, in case Celeste wanted to deny these belonged to her when she returned. For the next 2 days, Jasper acted as usual. He went to work, came home to cook, and even had several phone calls with Celeste, asking about her situation in Orlando. Celeste sounded somewhat nervous, but Jasper pretended not to notice. "How's Thaddeus? Is the project going smoothly?" Jasper casually asked over the phone. "Pretty good, we're busy. Had many meetings today, and we have to meet several clients tomorrow." Celeste's voice was somewhat flustered. "That's great. Don't overwork yourself. Take care," Jasper said calmly, while imagining the scene where his carefully prepared gift was about to come in handy. On the 3rd evening, Jasper received a text from Celeste. "Something came up temporarily. Have to stay in Orlando tonight. We'll be back tomorrow noon." Jasper smiled, replied with a simple "okay," and then sat on the living room sofa, opening a 12-year-old single malt whiskey he had been saving for special occasions. He raised his glass, making a toasting gesture to the air. "To the good show that's about to begin." Meanwhile, in the presidential suite of a 5-star hotel in Orlando, 60-year-old Thaddeus was adjusting his tie in front of the mirror. Despite being well-maintained, the traces of time had still crept onto his face and hairline. As CEO of Westside Pharmaceuticals, he was used to controlling everything, including his subordinate Celeste. "Ready?" Thaddeus turned to Celeste, who was applying makeup. "I've already booked the best restaurant in town. Then we can come back and celebrate." His gaze was full of implication. "Of course. Just give me 5 more minutes." Celeste smiled in response, though she felt somewhat uneasy inside. This was her 3rd time coming out with Thaddeus, and although the previous 2 times had gone smoothly, she could never completely relax. Thaddeus walked to the minibar, took out a bottle of mineral water, and quietly pulled out the small bottle containing pink pills from his pocket. He took out 2 pills and quickly swallowed them, thinking that tonight would definitely be a wonderful evening. Dinner went smoothly. Red wine, candlelight, exquisite food, and sweet talk. Thaddeus kept talking about how he planned to promote Celeste to marketing director of the company. As long as she continued to cooperate with him, Celeste gradually relaxed, completely forgetting about her husband at home. However, Thaddeus began to feel strange. Usually, the pills should have started taking effect by now, but he felt no change at all. In fact, he felt more tired than usual. Maybe it needs a little more time. He comforted himself, taking another sip of red wine, or maybe add one more pill. He excused himself to go to the bathroom and swallowed 2 more Viagra pills. After dinner, the two returned to the hotel. As soon as they entered the room, Thaddeus eagerly pulled Celeste into his arms, kissing her passionately. Celeste responded to his passion, but soon noticed an obvious problem. Thaddeus seemed completely unable to get motivated. "What's wrong?" Celeste asked with confusion, her voice carrying a hint of disappointment. "I don't know. Maybe I was too tired today," Thaddeus explained awkwardly, while inwardly cursing those useless pills. He had already taken 4 pills, double his usual dose, but had no reaction whatsoever. "Don't worry, I have a solution," Celeste smiled mysteriously, taking out the bottle of magic essence from her bag. "This is absolutely effective." "What is this?" Thaddeus asked curiously, hope rekindling in his eyes. "A little secret, the kind my husband will never know about." Celeste opened the cap and poured a large drop onto her hand. "Come, let me help you." When they began using that bottle of magic essence, everything changed. For the first few minutes, both felt great, with Celeste even praising that this time felt better than before with a cooling sensation. But soon, the situation took a drastic turn. "Wait! Something doesn't seem right." Thaddeus suddenly frowned. A strange burning sensation began spreading in his private parts, rapidly escalating from mild stinging to unbearable burning. "Fuck! It hurts!" "What? I also feel... Ah!" Celeste felt the same burning sensation, looking at her hands in horror to find they were turning a bizarre bright green. "What the hell is this?" Thaddeus screamed and jumped off the bed, rushing to the bathroom. When he turned on the lights, seeing himself in the mirror nearly made him scream. His private parts and surrounding skin had all turned bright green, and it was rapidly spreading. "Celeste, what the fuck did you make me use?" Thaddeus roared angrily, his voice full of panic. Celeste also rushed into the bathroom, and when she saw herself and Thaddeus, she covered her mouth in horror. Both frantically washed with water and soap, but the green dye not only didn't fade, it became more pronounced due to the friction. I don't know. This is what I always use," Celeste explained frantically, her eyes wide with fear. Just then, a new, more urgent sensation struck. Thaddeus suddenly felt intense urinary urgency, almost unable to control it. At the same time, his intestines began churning violently, sending warning signals. I need to use the toilet." Thaddeus rushed toward the toilet, but just as he was about to reach it, Celeste rushed in first and slammed the door shut. "Celeste, open the door. I can't hold it anymore," Thaddeus desperately shouted outside the door, his legs clamped tightly together, large beads of sweat forming on his forehead. "Wait a minute. I can't hold it either," Celeste screamed from inside, accompanied by a series of embarrassing sounds. Thaddeus felt his control rapidly slipping away. He looked around desperately for any possible solution. Trash can, sink, even outside the window. But it was too late. A wave of unbearable spasms hit, and he completely lost control. On the expensive Italian imported carpet worth thousands of dollars in the luxury hotel presidential suite, the 60-year-old pharmaceutical company CEO experienced the most humiliating moment of his life. When Celeste finally opened the bathroom door, she was greeted by a green, naked, soaking wet, pale-faced Thaddeus, and a completely ruined luxury suite. The air was filled with an indescribable stench. "We need to go to the hospital," Thaddeus said tremblingly, feeling like he might collapse from dehydration at any moment. The severe diarrhea had left him extremely weak, and he felt his lower body burning like fire. Most despairingly, no matter how hard they tried to clean, the bright green color not only didn't fade, it became more pronounced due to friction and sweat. It was as if someone had permanently marked them with fluorescent green tags. "We can't go out like this," Celeste screamed hysterically. "We're green all over. You think I want this?" Thaddeus angrily retorted. "But we have no choice. I think I might need medical assistance, and we can't stay in this scene." He disgustedly pointed at the surrounding mess. Eventually, the two had no choice but to wrap themselves in bath towels while calling the hotel's internal line, requesting medical assistance. When the hotel medical staff arrived, they were shocked to see these two people covered in green and the completely ruined luxury suite. "My God, what happened here?" the hotel doctor asked in shock while trying to maintain professionalism. "We need to go to the hospital, immediately," Thaddeus commanded, no longer caring about dignity. The hotel quickly arranged a private ambulance, trying to avoid other guests' attention. But when they passed through the lobby, it still caused a commotion. Several guests took out their phones, secretly photographing this scene. Two people wrapped in white medical sheets, with exposed skin all bright green, being hurriedly wheeled into an ambulance. Just as the ambulance doors closed, Thaddeus heard a young woman's surprised voice. "Is that Mr. Thaddeus, the CEO of Westside Pharmaceuticals?" He closed his eyes in despair. He knew this nightmare was just beginning. In the emergency room, doctors and nurses tried to maintain professionalism, but their expressions couldn't hide their surprise and curiosity about this pair of green patients. Especially when they noticed that this man and woman were wearing hotel bathrobes and were obviously not a married couple. Their expressions became even more subtle. "So, can you describe in detail what happened?" the attending physician Dr. Ryan asked seriously, his notebook ready to record the medical history. Thaddeus and Celeste looked at each other, neither knowing how to explain this embarrassing situation. We were using a personal product when we suddenly developed these symptoms," Thaddeus said awkwardly, his face filled with shame, though it was hard to see his blush through the green skin. "What personal product? What are the specific ingredients? This information is crucial for treatment," the doctor said seriously. "For your health, I need to know exactly what happened." Thaddeus looked around. There were at least a dozen staff members and other patients in the emergency room who could hear their conversation. "Could we talk privately? Sorry, but given that your symptoms may involve toxic substances, we need to understand the situation immediately," the doctor said firmly. "Now, please tell me what product you used?" Under the doctor's insistence, Thaddeus and Celeste had no choice but to confess everything in front of everyone. Their inappropriate relationship, Viagra, lubricant, and the subsequent disastrous consequences. The doctor recorded while frowning. The nurses exchanged glances, with several even turning around, obviously trying to suppress laughter. "I need to see exactly what product you used. There might have been a serious chemical reaction," the doctor said seriously. Celeste had no choice but to take out the bottle of green liquid from her bag, and the doctor immediately sent it for component analysis. Meanwhile, a series of examinations and treatments began. For fluids, skin irrigation, medication to alleviate gastrointestinal symptoms. Just as Thaddeus was being wheeled away for additional tests, a young nurse approached Celeste. "Is that really Mr. Thaddeus, the CEO of Westside Pharmaceuticals?" she asked quietly, her eyes sparkling with gossip. Celeste wanted to deny it, but it was too late. She nodded, then closed her eyes in despair. She knew that by tomorrow, this story would spread throughout the entire medical community. In fact, the news spread faster than she imagined. The hospital's WhatsApp groups were already circulating messages about this unusual case. Pharmaceutical company CEO and his female subordinate turned green all over from using special products, now in emergency room 6. Although no names were mentioned, the clues were obvious enough. Meanwhile, the laboratory analysis results came in. The doctor walked into Thaddeus's room with the report, looking serious. "We found high concentrations of fluorescent dye, capsaicin, and a mixture of diuretic and laxative ingredients in the sample," the doctor said, his voice clearly confused. "This combination is very specific. It appears to have been deliberately formulated. Do you have any thoughts?" Thaddeus and Celeste turned pale. At this moment, Celeste suddenly remembered something, and her hands began to tremble. Jasper, she said in a low voice. This was Jasper's doing. Who is Jasper? The doctor asked, pen ready to record. My husband. Celeste's voice was barely audible. He's a pharmacist. The doctor's expression became more complex as he nodded and continued recording in the medical file. So, this might be a deliberate prank, or rather, an act of revenge? Celeste was speechless and could only nod. I need to ask, does this Jasper have any reason to, take this kind of action against you? The doctor asked carefully. The atmosphere in the room immediately became more awkward. Thaddeus glared at the doctor, but before he could say anything, Celeste was already in tears. Thaddeus and I, we were behind my husband's back. She couldn't continue. The doctor nodded knowingly and recorded something else in the medical file. This medical record containing details of their affair would be permanently stored in the hospital archives, potentially available for legal proceedings or insurance claims at any time. And this was just the beginning of the disaster. Just as the doctor continued questioning, Thaddeus suddenly felt severe pain. His old hemorrhoids had ruptured and were bleeding after this episode of severe diarrhea. He had to face further humiliation, undergoing hemorrhoid examination and treatment in front of numerous medical staff. Mr. Thaddeus, please lie on your side and bend your knees, the doctor said calmly. We need to check the bleeding situation. The 60-year-old CEO, the helmsman of Westside Pharmaceuticals, was now lying on his side in a hospital bed, green all over, undergoing a hemorrhoid examination. His dignity and authority were completely gone. Meanwhile, Celeste's phone rang. She hesitated for a moment but still answered. Where are you? Jasper's voice was surprisingly calm. I'm at the hospital, Celeste stammered, her voice full of fear. Oh, what happened? Jasper's tone carried a hint of feigned concern, but underneath was cold satisfaction. Celeste didn't know how to answer. What could she say? That she was having an affair with her boss, used tampered lubricant, and ended up green all over with uncontrollable diarrhea? I think we need to talk, Celeste finally said, her voice full of despair. There's nothing to talk about, Jasper said coldly. How did your overtime go? How was Thaddeus's special meeting? Celeste fell silent, tears flowing again. I've already contacted a lawyer. The divorce papers will be ready tomorrow, Jasper continued. By the way, tell Thaddeus that his miracle pills are actually just starch and food coloring. The effect was all psychological. Oh, and the dye will take at least 2 weeks to fade. Good luck to you both. A light laugh came from the other end of the phone. Then Jasper hung up. Celeste sat there dazed, the phone slipping from her hands. Her world was collapsing, and this was only the first day. Meanwhile, an even bigger storm was brewing. When the hospital contacted the hotel to confirm the patients' identities, the hotel management had already assessed the room damages. Stained carpets, bed sheets, curtains, and even traces that had seeped into the floor, totaling over $8,000 in damages. Worse still, Thaddeus's assistant received a call from the hotel asking if the company would cover these expenses. What damages? Wasn't Mr. Thaddeus attending business meetings? The assistant asked in confusion. The hotel manager awkwardly explained the situation, omitting some unsavory details, but enough for the assistant to understand what had happened. The news spread like wildfire within the company. The next morning, while Thaddeus and Celeste were still under observation at the hospital, social media already featured their photos. Blurry images of 2 people covered in green being wheeled into an ambulance, captioned, Westside CEO's Green Secret? #GreenGiantCEO. Worse yet, an intern doctor at the hospital posted an ambiguous tweet. Met a pharmaceutical big shot today. Looks like his drug testing went wrong. Turning green wasn't even the worst part. #Hospital Encounters. Although no names were mentioned, the implications were obvious enough. The tweet quickly gained hundreds of retweets. When Thaddeus and Celeste were discharged the next day, they faced a completely changed world. Although their physical symptoms had improved, Their skin still showed obvious green coloration, especially in areas that had initially contacted the magic essence, which remained more vibrant. They had no choice but to wear temporary clothing provided by the hospital and leave through the back door under escort from hospital PR staff. But even so, several reporters and curious onlookers were still waiting. Flashbulbs went off, questions came in rapid succession. Mr. Thaddeus, can you explain why you're green all over? Was this a new drug test gone wrong? Ms. Celeste, what is your relationship with Mr. Thaddeus? Does your husband know about this? They hurriedly got into the waiting car, but the damage was already done. By afternoon, #GreenCEO was trending on Twitter, with various speculations and jokes emerging endlessly. When they returned to the company the next day, they were greeted by dead silence, followed by suppressed whispers. Everyone knew what had happened, or at least knew the general situation. Thaddeus tried to salvage the situation by calling an emergency meeting, claiming it was an unfortunate drug-allergic reaction. But when he stood up to speak in the conference room, someone noticed he had left a suspicious wet spot on his seat cushion. The entire conference room fell into awkward silence. After the meeting, the company's HR director Sarah immediately called Thaddeus to her office. The board has learned about the Orlando incident, Sarah said directly. They are very concerned about this situation. It was just an accident. Thaddeus defended. A prank. The board is more concerned about your relationship with Celeste. Sarah said calmly. Company policy clearly states that inappropriate relationships between superiors and subordinates constitute abuse of power. Thaddeus's face became even uglier, though the green skin masked part of it. This is my private life. No, when you use company funds to stay in five-star hotels and have relationships with your direct subordinate, it's no longer private life. Sarah was unyielding. The board requires you to take immediate leave and undergo internal investigation. Thaddeus wanted to argue, but he knew he had no standing. His reputation was damaged, his marriage might be ending, and now even his career was in jeopardy. Meanwhile, Celeste's situation was even more difficult. She had not only lost her reputation at the company but also faced the risks of divorce and potential unemployment. When she returned to her former home to pack her belongings, she found Jasper had already neatly packed all her clothes and placed them on the porch. You can leave the keys on the table. Jasper stood in the living room, speaking calmly. He looked surprisingly relaxed, as if he had shed a heavy burden. Jasper, can we talk? Celeste tried to explain. I didn't mean it. Things just happened. Jasper looked at her, the corner of his mouth slightly upturned. Talk about what? About your business meeting with Thaddeus in Orlando? Or about how you both got green? Celeste's face instantly turned pale. It was you? How could you do this? Oh, this is called clinical drug testing, Jasper said easily, as if discussing the weather. I just wanted to test my new formula. Honestly, the results exceeded my expectations. The photos on Twitter look quite nice. Green really suits you. Do you know how humiliating this was for us? The whole company is talking about us. The entire industry knows. Thaddeus might lose his job, Celeste said angrily. How unfortunate, Jasper said with feigned sympathy. But I'm sure he'll find a new job soon. After all, he's such a capable man, isn't he? Oh wait, no, he needs pills even for that. Celeste was speechless and could only look at Jasper helplessly. The divorce agreement is on the table. My demands are simple. The house goes to me, we split the money in our joint accounts equally. I don't want alimony or spousal support. Clean and simple, as if we never knew each other. Jasper's voice was calm and firm. Where am I supposed to live? Celeste asked weakly. Maybe Thaddeus can take you in? Jasper said sarcastically. Oh wait, he might be in trouble himself now. That's too bad. Or you could stay at a green-themed hotel? I hear they're quite popular. Celeste finally signed the divorce agreement, knowing she had no bargaining power. When she dragged her suitcase away from what was once her home, Jasper stood at the window, raising a glass of whiskey in silent salute. To new life. he said quietly, a satisfied smile on his face. Over the following months, both Thaddeus's career and life hit rock bottom. The board's investigation results were unfavorable to him. Although he barely kept his job, he was demoted to regional manager with his salary cut in half and received severe warnings. Worse yet, when his wife learned of everything, she immediately filed for divorce and took most of his savings and investments in the property settlement. A month later, Thaddeus was standing in line at the company cafeteria when he heard a conversation between two young employees behind him. "I heard the green department's budget got cut again," one person said. "Yeah, the boss is really angry," another replied. Thaddeus turned around, glaring at them. "What green department? We don't have a green department in our company." The two employees looked at each other. Then one said awkwardly, "Sorry, Mr. Thaddeus, we were discussing, the marketing department's green initiative." But Thaddeus knew what they were talking about. Green had become the company's internal code name for him. Whenever he walked by, people would whisper, sometimes even fake coughing to cover their laughter. Celeste's situation wasn't much better. She had to resign from Westside because facing her colleagues' stares and behind-the-back gossip every day had become unbearable. She found an administrative assistant job with much lower pay and lived in a cramped apartment. Most ironically, although 2 months had passed since the incident, some areas of her skin still retained a faint green tinge. Whenever she dated new men, she always had to explain these strange marks, and the truth was obviously not a good conversation topic. Meanwhile, the story of the green incident became a legend within the pharmaceutical industry. Although no one discussed it openly, whenever Thaddeus or Celeste appeared at industry gatherings, it always caused a wave of whispers and suppressed laughter. Once, a drunk sales representative even loudly asked Thaddeus if he minded taking a photo together. "Because green is my favorite color." And Jasper? His life took a completely different trajectory. He resigned from Westside Pharmaceuticals and accepted a senior R&D position at an emerging pharmaceutical company, Medinova, with a salary double what he had before. No one knew what special research projects he mentioned in his interview, but the new company was impressed by his drug formulation development abilities. "Your innovative thinking and problem-solving abilities are exactly what we need," Medinova's R&D director told him during the offer call. "Especially your research on dermal penetration formulations is very valuable." Jasper simply smiled and accepted the praise, without mentioning how his most successful dermal penetration formula had caused his ex-wife and her lover to become socially dead throughout the pharmaceutical industry. At the new company, Jasper quickly established his own team and reputation. His projects progressed smoothly, his innovative ideas were recognized by management. More importantly, he found inner peace. The Jasper who had been betrayed and mocked no longer existed, replaced by a confident, calm, unshakable new Jasper. 6 months after the divorce, Jasper met Melanie, the marketing director of MediQuest Company, at an industry conference. Unlike Celeste, Melanie had real talent and an independent personality. She appreciated Jasper's professional knowledge and calm composure, while Jasper was attracted to her intelligence and humor. "So, you're the legendary Jasper?" At a dinner party, Melanie asked directly. Jasper raised an eyebrow. "What legend?" "Oh, don't play dumb," Melanie laughed. "The whole industry knows who turned Thaddeus and his little mistress green. That formula was pure genius." Jasper neither confirmed nor denied, just smiled slightly. "I don't know what you're talking about, but I do have some research in chemical reactions. I admire your creativity." Melanie raised her glass. "To clever revenge." Their relationship developed quickly, but unlike Jasper's previous marriage, this relationship was built on mutual respect and sincerity. On the first anniversary of his divorce, Jasper received an anonymous email containing only a photo. A green Thaddeus sitting in some medical facility's waiting area, his face full of embarrassment and pain. Below the photo was just one line. "I happened to be at the same hospital that day. Thank you for your revenge. You spoke for all betrayed partners. Signed, a doctor who admires you." Jasper smiled and saved the photo in a folder named Experiment Success, then closed his computer to prepare for his date with Melanie. That night, they dined at the city's finest restaurant. When the server brought dessert, Jasper took out a small box and placed it in front of Melanie. "What's this?" Melanie asked in surprise. "Open it and see." Jasper smiled. Inside the box was an exquisite diamond ring. "Too fast?" Jasper asked, showing rare uncertainty. Melanie looked at him, her eyes sparkling. "It might be too fast for ordinary people, but for a man who can plan and execute perfect revenge within a week, I think this is just right." They looked at each other and smiled, raising their glasses to celebrate new beginnings. On the other side of the city, Thaddeus sat alone at home, staring blankly at the television screen. His career had stagnated, his marriage was over, and his reputation permanently damaged. Every time he looked in the mirror, he could still see extremely faint traces of green on his skin, possibly just psychological, but it forever reminded him of that disastrous business trip. His phone lit up, showing a message from his ex-wife. "The lawyer says the house sold. You need to sign another document." Thaddeus sighed and replied with a simple, "Okay." When he put down his phone, he suddenly felt a familiar gastrointestinal discomfort. Since that incident, his stomach problems had never fully recovered, and now even mild stress would trigger symptoms. He hurried to the bathroom, once again cursing that pharmacist he had never met. Meanwhile, Jasper and Melanie were on the restaurant terrace, bathed in soft moonlight, looking forward to a beautiful future. "I heard Thaddeus's ex-wife is fighting him in divorce court," Melanie laughed. "My friend works at the courthouse and says she's demanding division of all assets, including his retirement fund." "Good," Jasper said easily. "I hope she succeeds. Don't you feel sorry for them at all?" Melanie asked curiously. Jasper shook his head, his gaze firm. "Betrayers don't deserve sympathy. They chose their path and should accept the consequences." "Including becoming green dwarves?" Melanie couldn't help but laugh. "Especially becoming green dwarves." Jasper raised his glass, his eyes sparkling with the light of victory. To Justice's chemical reaction. Outside the window, the sunset painted the sky a beautiful orange-red, like drawing a perfect conclusion to this perfect revenge story. For Jasper, the best revenge wasn't endless suffering, but making the betrayers live forever in the shame they created for themselves, while he moved toward a better future. Because true victory isn't just making enemies fall, but standing higher yourself.
That's the end of today's story. For more captivating tales, hit subscribe and never miss an episode.